This time in Montana Garage, 427 cubic inches of pissed off small block Chevrolet goes in the Baremetal 55. This thing will be slow no mo, and I will no longer have cubic inch envy. Let's go. The old 57 here hasn't been good for much lately, but maybe I can at least use it for some storage. It's nice to have a built-in storage shed in your shop. We got to move this stuff because we got to get in the big box. All right, I need both hands for this one. Before we start hooking badass TKX 5-speed transmissions to super cool small block Chevys with lots of power and dumping them in the old race car here, start with a quick and brief, hold on, maybe it's already over. A quick brief history of the Baremetal 55. For those of you guys that are new here, haven't watched a bunch of videos, don't know where this car came from and kind of my history with it, well, stay tuned, I'm gonna tell you right now. Well, this was my dad's car. He's had it since the early 1970s, I think. Somehow in, I think 1988 when I was in high school, I conned him out of it. I talked him into selling it to me. It's not like today's parents where they just give their kid their car. I had to buy it. I paid $1,000 for this car in 1988. I actually only paid him $500, and then the other $500 was my graduation gift from high school. That's why I remember it anyways. I think he agrees that that's what we did. So I've had it since then. It had the same small block in it, a 4-speed. It was just kind of, he had painted it kind of maroon at some point and then had gone over that, and he was doing body work and there was, primer spots all over it. I remember some of the girls in high school used to call it the Dr. Pepper car because it was kind of that maroon, kind of like a Dr. Pepper color, apparently. So I used to drive the heck out of it in high school. I didn't have it that long and I blew it up. I spun a rod bearing, so I had to tear it all apart, and I was flipping burgers for some reason. I remember distinctly that the minimum wage was $3.35 an hour. So it takes a lot of burger flipping at $3.35 an hour to, I think my machine shop bill was like $3,500. So I spent a lot of time at the old snack shack flipping burgers so I could pay to get that thing rebuilt. So it took me probably over a year to get it back together once I spun the bearing on it. So I thought I hopped it up a little bit. It's supposedly got, I don't have paperwork from it anymore, but it's got, a bigger cam and high compression pistons, and those are the camel hump heads. And I thought it was something, It was loud, it would spin the tires and I could spin donuts in it. And I used to go and do a little street racing back in the day. And I think I only lost like one time, maybe not like I was prolific. I didn't do it all the time, but I bet I raced like 10 times or something. And I only lost like once. So that's pretty good. I must have just been picking the right slow cars. But I think back then, the cars weren't that fast, right? It's like 90s fast, I called it. Everything, I wasn't like racing people with twin turbos and Pro Chargers and stuff like people have nowadays. So I had this cool old, fastish car, graduated from high school for like the first year or so. That's the only car I had. It was my daily driver. It was my only car. So yeah, it was go to work, whatever. That's what I drove. And I tried to make some improvements along the way. I continued with the body work. So there was a few more primer spots added, whatnot, and maybe made a few small changes, change the intake, do some little things like that along the way. And then, life happens, you get older, you get different jobs. I went away to the service, got out of the service, got married, kids, the typical story. But the one thing that never happened is I never let go of my 55 Chevy. I had a lot of help along the way. Like I can remember a friend of mine let me store it in his back of his house for a year or so. My uncle, or I call him Uncle Kenny. If you ever watch this, Kenny, I know you're not really, he's like my second cousin or whatever. He had a shop. He let me store it inside his shop, I think when I was in the service. So I had help along the way. There was plenty of times when I could have used a few bucks and I could have sold my 55 Chevy, but it was never for sale. I used to tell people, like, they asked me if it's for sale, I'd say $10,000. And, we're talking like in the 90s. That was like, no, it wasn't worth $10,000. Nobody's going to be dumb enough to give me $10,000 for it. So that basically it was not for sale. At a certain point, I had to quit saying that because it became worth that much money just sitting here, So here's an old faded picture of it in the shop. You can see I just got bare shop walls. So, you know, I just, like I said, I never let go of the car, and I went through a few different career changes and whatever. Somehow life happens. We ended up in this spot. You know, I got a wife and kids, and we just worked hard, and we built this house. And a few years later, we built the shop, and it took a while to get electricity out here. And then, you know, a little bit longer before we got sheetrock and whatever. It took a long time, but like I said, I never let go of the car, and I never could really afford to do anything with it. It just sat. I used to drive the kids around a little bit when they were really little. And I remember my daughter was just talking about this the other day. I asked her about, we were talking about spinning Brodies in the ice or whatever. She's like, I did that. You did the little Brody thing when I was a kid, and I've been terrified. So I took them in the 55 one time over to a little cul-de-sac and, you know, spun her around. And my son was saying more, more, more. And my daughter said, out, out, out. She couldn't get out of there fast enough. So I guess I ruined her for that. But anyways, at that point, my son was kind of into it, and he wanted to go work on the car. So we came out here. I didn't really have the money to make improvements and go forward, but I thought, well, what I can do is before I fix anything, I got to take some stuff apart. So we'll come out and take it apart, and then we'll figure out how to get the stuff we need to put it back together. I don't remember if I was, I think I wanted to put like disc brakes on it, make it more drivable or safer to drive with the kids in there. And then maybe it had a big oil leak or something. I don't know. We started by pulling the motor, and then that just kind of snowballed to frame off restoration somehow. So yeah, before I know it, the freaking body was hanging from the rafters up here, and I'm wheeling the frame out. Let's go, He-Man, get her out of there. There was kind of a little gap between when we first started taking it apart to where that happened. Like, I think I just pulled the motor and it probably sat here for a year or two like that. And then at some point I started having a little bit of money. So I'm like, okay, let's start doing this. And like I say, next thing we know, their car's hanging from the rafters, frames out, we're rebuilding the suspension, and it just snowballed from there. And pretty much everything I've done has been on YouTube. So you can go back if you haven't watched some of the videos. A lot of the aspects of the build have been filmed and shared there. So please check it out. But I just set out to I had a vision of what I wanted to turn this car into. And a lot of what I wanted to turn it into was because of this car. And that's a different story. I got videos about that too. That's my uncle's car. Pro Street, big fat tires, roll bar. So I didn't go Pro Street, but I got mini tubs. These are the big fat tires for the 57, a little smaller, but still I got some big fat tires for the back of the 55 here. We got the roll bar. So it looks like a race car, even though it's not really a race car. I call it a race car. It looks like a race car. It's not a race car. But that's kind of, because of this car is kind of why I wanted to build my car the way I built it. I guess one of the things I'm most, I don't want to say proud of, I guess, but I've done all of this myself. I'm not a mechanic. I haven't been trained or whatever. I'm just an average guy with a modest set of tools, maybe more than some guys, a lot less than a lot of other guys, and the ability or the willingness to learn. Now, I grew up around cars. I mean, I've had it since I was a kid. My dad and my uncles were into cars. That's how I ended up being into cars, or ended up with the car. So I've had some mentors and people show me. It's not like I just started doing it myself, but I haven't been, like I said, I haven't been trained. I'm not a mechanic, and I just enjoy it. And so when I decided to do this stuff, I just try to figure it out. Like, there's things I don't know how to do, but nowadays we got YouTube and whatever. You can figure out anything if you just try hard enough. I think I'm just like the average guy that's into cars and tries to just figure it out. And nothing's perfect, nothing's special. You're not going to see anything on the cover of any magazines. But you know what? I built this damn thing by myself. I've pretty much done everything by myself with a little bit of help from my family, my son and my wife. And Mariah, have you been out here? I don't think my daughter's been out here helping me. It's shame on you. Just kidding. She's probably helped some too. My dad and uncles used to help me when I was little. But and this form of the rebuild, I mean, nobody's touched this thing with the wrench besides me or my wife or my son. So it's kind of cool to be able to say that. I mean, built, not bought, right? I know a lot of people just go buy their stuff, and that's cool too if that's what you want to do. But I don't want to do that. I want to build it. So I even did the paint myself. Pretty nice, huh? All right. Obviously, it's not very nice paint, but I think it looks pretty badass how it is. It might get painted someday. Probably not. That brings us to modern day. Like I said, you can watch some videos. I've done all the stuff, and I refer to it a lot of times as just an old race car. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just an old race car. Well, obviously, it's not a race car. It's a street car, daily driver. It's not a daily driver. I don't drive it every day, but it's a car that I want to drive. I enjoy driving it. I take the wife to dinner. We go just whatever. I go get groceries. This last summer, I drove the wheels off the dang thing, and I just enjoy driving it. And so I don't want a car that is just a race car. This is supposed to be my race car someday, maybe. But this is the car that I want to drive and then be able to race. And so I did the Big Sky Race Week last year, and it didn't go so well. I'd never done a drag and drive before, but as I've been building the car, that you know, that niche or whatever has grown in popularity. And I was like, I want to do a dang drag and drive. And for the last like 3 years, I've been trying to get the car ready to go to a drag and drive. And I finally did it this last summer. And it was super fun. I would recommend it if you're into cars at all, or into racing at all, or into just driving cars. It's super cool. I did the Big Sky Race Week, and we're gonna do the Big Sky Race Week again this summer. So I did all this stuff. I made all the changes. I made things cooler and better, at least I think. But the one thing I didn't change is the power plant. And part of the reason for that was, I mean, budgetary. Obviously, I've already spent a ton of money, and just trying to, you know, I wanted to be able to drive the car, and I didn't have, you know, more money at the time for another motor. I don't know if it's like the thing where you're a little kid and you tell everybody about your big sledding hill you used to go on, and then you go back there when you're an adult and it's just like this little tiny hill. So maybe it was like, as a kid, I thought it was fast. And then as an adult, I'm like, this thing is not fast at all. So now it's still fun to drive. Like, it would spin the tires and it'd snap your head back, and it's loud. And people hear that, and, you know, they think, and they see the race car look, and they think it's fast, and they're out telling me to spin the tires. And I'm like, if I got my big fat tires on there, it won't even hardly spin them. I mean, I've always wanted a little more power, right? But I knew after doing race week, I told my wife, this thing is never going anywhere near a drag strip unless it has more power. So this last summer, I did a little extra work. I'm self-employed, and so I just kept working. Like, I just kept taking on work and working every day, and probably neglecting a lot of other things. Sorry, honey, and the kids. The kids are grown. They can handle it. The wife, she's busy. She's got stuff to do. She likes it when I'm not in her hair, probably. So I just worked a lot. I just worked and I worked and I worked. And at the end of the summer, I had a little bit of cash stacked. And so that's how I decided to come up with this bad boy. And it was a little more money than I planned on spending. But once I did some research and talked to my brother-in-law, this is the route I decided to go. And then we had, like I say, I ended up going with the TKX 5-speed, and I can get into why I did that away from the gear vendor here in a little bit. I've done all the work to the car, and I guess I decided I wanted to be a little faster. Now, it's still not going to be, it's not going to be like fast, right? It's not going to be like, you know, everybody's got Pro Chargers, not everybody, but Pro Chargers and turbochargers and whatever. It's still just a naturally aspirated small block in a pretty big, heavy car, but it's going to be a heck of a lot more fun to drive, and it's going to be a little less embarrassing when I do go to the drag strip once in a while. So again, it's not a race car. It's not going to be like super fast. It's going to be a lot faster, and I think I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it. So enough jibber jabber. I guess we got to start figuring out what we got to do to get this thing in there. First things first, we're going with a TKX 5-speed transmission. I got this bad boy from Jody's Transmission. I got the transmission, everything I need: clutch, flywheel, pilot bushing, bolts, speedometer cable, lots of stuff. I got everything I need from Jody's Transmissions. He came recommended to me from a buddy. I also saw his name several times, like in forums, as I was doing some research on should I go TKX or go with keep the gear vendor. So he came highly recommended to me, and I'm highly recommending him to everybody else out there that has anything to do. I think he just does manual transmissions. I don't know anything, and I called him, and now I feel like I know a lot of stuff, because that guy, I think, knows everything about this stuff. And he's been super helpful, and he's told me I can call him and talk to him about this bell housing alignment stuff, and he'll help me out. So highly recommend, if you're looking for a manual transmission, give Jody a call. I'll put the number in the description. I showed it on the sticker there, but it's in the video description. So, being we're doing the TKX, we have to do bell housing alignment. It has to be parallel aligned and coexcentric aligned, which I think, so parallel is like the flatness of the face back here. If I had a bell housing here, I could show you, but I'm not that smart. It's over there and I'm over here. So the face of it has to be parallel, I guess, to the crankshaft, I guess, probably. And then the circle thingy in the bell housing has to, you know, be centered on the crankshaft thingy. So those are the technical terms for it. Shocker, I've never done this before, and I don't really know how to do it. So I got some videos I've watched, and Jody gave me some instructions, and he will help me out along the way. But the first thing I notice is I can't put the bell housing on with the engine on the little stand. So I got to come up with, we just got started, I'm already on to plan B. I got to figure out a way to block up or hang up or suspend the motor so I can get the, what's it called? The round thing. Flywheel. The brain, it shuts off. Get the flywheel, bell housing and stuff on there, and we can start doing our fancy measuring. All right, so we got to move the engine or lift it, suspend it. So I'm going to take this bad boy lifter thingy, universal engine lift plate, I guess if you want to be technical is the term. So we got to put that bad boy over here. Unfortunately, we got no carburetor studs on this guy, but They supplied some. So the first wrench or bolts I'm turning on the new motor, install carburetor studs. Let's see if I can get them open. Man, ARP, even the plastic is strong on these things. All right, I'm stronger though. I win. Stronger than plastic. It's a good day. Good day in the Montana garage. Engine lift plate is on, so I think what I'm gonna do, I have a plan, that's not always a good thing. So we're gonna bring the old crane over here, shunk, 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 lift up a little bit. We're gonna take this engine stand off of here, and then I think what I'm gonna do is just flip it around so that, I think if I put it on backwards, so let's say this part is out here, floating in space, it should still mount up to the motor mounts. And then, you know, I'll move it over so it, or I get it off of this, probably just get it off of this thing altogether and just put it on the ground, be easier. And then I can still like set it on this, even though these will be out of the way, and then it probably isn't gonna wanna sit just right, so then we can just leave a little tension on the engine crane so it's still suspended in the back, but then this can be on the ground, so hopefully that can, because I think I want it pretty secure while I'm doing these measurements. I don't want it like just hanging from the crane. Anyway, that's my theory. Bring the crane over here, we'll gotta unbolt this thing, and I just explained it. We gotta do what I just said, and we'll see if it works. Who's driving this thing? Can't get there from here. Well, as you can see, the old engine crane doesn't fit around the pallet. Anybody else that's ever bought a crate engine probably knows this whole deal, but I've never bought a crate engine, so I thought I was just gonna come over here and lift it up. But that's not the case. So my plan or theory, I don't know if I'm gonna take the screws out of the wood. I'll probably just take these bad boys out of the engine cradle thing and then try to slide it this way, either, you know, with muscle, or if I can't, hook this up. And I think as I lift that, hopefully it'll just pull it back, maybe. All right, let's see what happens if we slowly, it's probably just gonna try to tip it over. There we go, come to Papa. A little weight off it. Here, you guys go back where you were before. Let's see, how would you have you up there? See anything from up there? Probably not. There, now get rid of all this extra chain. Whew. Then back to what we thought we were doing, which is just hooking this bad boy on here. I think we want to change positions here a little bit. Let's go back. I think I want to put the crane on the front of the engine, and I'm going to still need to balance with it. So I think I want to come around from over here. And then do the same thing we were just doing. Just from over here. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. And that'll come out of there. We're gonna flip her around the other way. And we're gonna see if we can put it back on there backwards. Easy. Somewhere in Marysville. Here's what we settled with. Oil pan, bell housing, hold on, nothing's touching the ground. We got a little weight on it right here, and then I just jammed this piece of, I think it's like 5/8 rod underneath there, and that's holding the front end down. So now she's solid as a rock. So I can start figuring out how to do the bell housing adjustments. Do you guys like puzzles? If so, you should get yourself one of these dial indicators and try to figure out how the heck, with all these extra little pieces, it goes on the crankshaft and fits in this circle right. It's actually a couple days later. I didn't spend a couple days figuring this out, but I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out how this works, and I watched a few videos, and most of the videos show a opening in the bell housing here that this whole thing fits in. My dial indicator doesn't fit in the hole, so I did find a couple where they do it like this, and I still don't know if that's right, but that's how I came up with. I still have to pull the plugs and then get a ratchet and spin the engine over. To me, it seems like as this goes around, this is going to change. Like this would have to be dead center, but it doesn't look like they are in the videos. Maybe my little brain is just not comprehending. But anywho, I'm going to pull the plugs, and then, of course, I don't have a helper, so you guys are going to watch the gauge for me as I spin it around, and then you'll let me know what it says. Deal? We're working on the co-eccentric alignment for the bell housing. I think I've already got it done. I was told that the Lakewood bell housings are not as easy, or sometimes you can't even get them within spec. So I was kind of expecting or fearing the worst here, but I think it actually, I don't even have to use dowel or offset dowel pins, I don't think, if I'm doing this right. So here's what we did. I got my little dial indicator set up. I went roundy to make sure that, at first I just started with 0 at 12 o'clock up there, and I went round around a few times to make sure it would come back to 0. Then I went round and round, and I found the most negative number. So for me, that negative number was right down here, not quite 6 o'clock, just barely a hair off of 6 o'clock. And I think I had negative like 6 thousandths down there. So then you make that your new 0, and you go roundy round again. Now, some videos said to do every 90 degrees, and so I did that. I had 2 thousandths here, and just a hair over 3 thousandths on that side. But I did most negative. You start your 0 there, and now the most positive number should be opposite of that. And that was the case for me. So I was 6 thousandths. So pretty much the same thing. It was just opposite. I was almost 0 at the top. I was 0 at the top before, and 6 at almost 6 o'clock. Now I'm 0 down here and 6 thousandths up here. And then that's the total run out. And you divide that in half because you only want to move it halfway. If you go 6 thousandths, then I'd just be 6 thousandths out the other way. So for me, half of 6 thousandths is 3 thousandths. And you just have to be within 5 thousandths to be good. So as far as I know, and I ran around a couple times and checked it, I think I'm good. I don't even have to use any offset dowel pins. All I had to do is shim a little bit for the parallel alignment, and I guess it's good. Now, the thing that's kind of weird to me is we did all this, and I guess the theory is you torque down all the bolts and you put everything back together the same way, because now I got to take it all apart and put the flywheel and the clutch and pressure plate and everything in there, and then bolt it all back in, and then you can't check it again because you got all that crap in there. But I guess the theory is you do this, you get your dowel pins how you need them or want them or how they have to be. In my case, I just got the straight dowel pins, no offset needed, and we'll slap her back together. So I was a little worried about this, and I'm not gonna proceed any further. I'm gonna call my transmission guy tomorrow and tell him what I did and what I found, and make sure that I am correct on my thinking that this is good to go. It is indeed the next day. And I spoke with Jody from Jody's Transmissions, my transmission guy, where I got all these pieces and parts, and the guy who's telling me what's the best way to do all this stuff. I explained to him how I did the dial indicating, what I came up with, and that I thought it was good enough, and he said it was indeed good enough, that I did kind of everything I needed to do. He did say that if he was doing it, he would go a little further. So I got it to within 3 thousandths, and he said I could, or if he was doing it, he would go the extra step and do maybe 1 offset dowel pin and redo it to try to get it a little closer or a little better. But the standard, or you got to be within 5 thousandths, and I was at 3, and I'm going to be shifting this thing at like less than 6,500 RPM probably. So he thought if I wanted to continue and do more, I could try more, but it was good enough. And that's kind of my motto as I've been building the whole car. It's good enough, right? So I'm not going to take the dowel pins out and redo it if I'm good enough. So I'm moving forward. I just put the pilot bushing in, and we got this fancy new lightweight aluminum flywheel from McLeod. Again, this is advice from Jody, my transmission guy. He thought with the gears I'm running and the transmission and the engine, the combination, that he recommended aluminum flywheel. Some people don't recommend them, but he thought, or his advice was with, like say, with my combination, that I could get away with running an aluminum flywheel and I would like it better. So that's what I went with. It's definitely, I can't remember how much it said it weighed, but it's way lighter than a stock. All right, we got the throw-up bearing, the clutch fork on the bell housing, got this little rubber doohickey bobber in there. So we got the throw-up bearing, clutch fork, all that stuff in here. I was just looking at the instructions, and then Jody, my transmission guy, gave me a picture too, and this picture is a little different, but this talks about how do you want the clutch fork having a little free play and how your clutch fork should be oriented. Jody gave me a picture and it says you want the clutch fork like 5 to 7 degrees forward, and I don't know how you're supposed to measure that because this thing is curved, and I had this rubber thing off here and you still can't really tell, but I have an adjustable throw-up bearing, and this one's a hair longer right now than the one I had in there before with the other transmission, and you're supposed to move this forward. I got the bell housing loose still, till it contacts the clutch fingers, and that's when you want to see that this is a hair forward, and I think it is. And if the clutch fork was, or the throw-up bearing was longer, it actually, I really don't know if it even works if you bind it up against the front. So I think we're good to go on this. I'm going to bolt the bell housing back on completely, and then it's kind of hard to tell, you know, this all moves around. I don't know how you're supposed to do all this, but I'm going to temporarily stab the transmission in here because I want to make sure it fits and goes in fairly easy, you know, on the clutch disc and everything before we're underneath the car. So we'll do that, and then we'll check this stuff out again when there's a little more, it's actually in place how it's supposed to be. So let's get this bolted up and we'll take the transmission out of the box. Man, that was brutal. I thought that means I did the bell housing alignment and everything. It was going to go together a lot easier than my old transmission that I struggled with mightily. Well, I struggled just as hard with this thing. I actually ended up having to these in here to kind of guide it, but that didn't really help me much. What I ended up having to do is use this ratchet strap, put it around the back of the transmission, and just pull on the clutch fork a little bit to release the clutch. It must have just been just a teensy weensy hair misaligned. I mean, this thing slid in and out of there like butter, but that thing would not go in there. But I finally got it. Now I just got to take it back apart, but I just want to make sure I could get it. Hopefully, beans I loosened up the clutch a little bit, put it where it needs to be, and it'll go back together easier next time. But I wanted to get that in there just to see that I could, and then to look at this clutch fork alignment thing. So now I can put it, got a little bit of free play, push it back so it's against the forks, and I would say it has a little bit of a forward angle. So I'm going to go with it. Hopefully it's good. Based on the pictures that I was provided, I think we're good to go. So, oh man, what's next? So I get this all pretty much ready. I got to do a couple things to the motor, but before I put it in, I want to hop in here and try to clean all this up a little bit. So I'm going to go get some soapy water. I think I'm just going to do it in here. I don't want it the driveway. It's a nice sunny day, but the driveway is like a big giant mud hole. So I really don't want to roll it out there and then roll it in here and get all the mud. So I'm just going to use some water, soapy water, and I'll rinse it off, and I'll use my shop vac or squeegee and suck up the water. Got a little cleaner. It's not perfect, but I'm going to drive this thing. It's going to get dirty. It's not a show car, but I wanted to take the opportunity while I had the chance to kind of clean it up a little bit, because I had some oil leak issues with my valve cover spitting oil out, and then I still had a little bit of an oil leak on the oil pan. So we had a little bit of stuff that wasn't perfect already. It doesn't take long. I mean, I didn't drive that thing. I mean, it's just one summer's worth of use, and you can see how dirty stuff gets. But anyways, I got this good enough, I think. And then I've been messing around with some other little details. My transmission guy called me back because I sent him a picture of this clutch fork. They're supposed to be like a certain angle, like I said, and he couldn't tell for sure with that boot on there in my picture, so I had to take the boot off, send him another picture and a video, and he says we're good to go. He also had me change this little vent. I guess there's an updated vent. The other vent wasn't letting enough pressure out or something, leading to some oil leaks. And then painted my throttle lever thingamabob doohickey that goes inside and on the firewall. And then I've been messing with this. This is my homemade clutch ball pivot thing. I had to grind this little notch in there because it's a little different casting on this block and it wouldn't fit. And then for some reason I had two different size spacers behind it. I don't know why, because it seems like both of those bosses, even on that motor, are like parallel, just like these two are pretty close to parallel. But these are also a little narrower, so I need some different bolts. So I'm not sure. I want to put that on there and then jack this up and put the headers on and see if it's kind of hard to get those bolts in there with the headers. I got different headers, so I got to see how that's all going to work. So I've just been doing some little stuff like that. And I wanted to try to drop this thing in here today, but I was also helping my wife and doing some stuff, and the day just gets weird for me. You know how it goes. And well, bam, motor and transmission installed. As you saw from the last fast motion clip, I was able to con my son into coming over and helping me, and I'm glad I did, because although it wasn't more of a pain than it always would be, it was just kind of a pain, and it would have been a struggle to do this by myself. As I kind of knew and expected, with the bell housing on the motor and the core support crossbar in place, she was a tight fit. We really had to, do the old angle trick. Hardest part was just getting the motor mounts lined up. Like, we could get one, but then this one was, was always just like a quarter of a bolt hole off, and we were prying on it. Actually, I'm pretty sure I broke a rib or did some sort of tendon, muscle, I don't know, something popped in the old chest here. I was leaning over the crossbar like this and yanking on a pry bar to try to pull this in place, and I felt something like snap, and it freaking hurts, but I'm going to survive. So if you see me kind of wincing a little bit today as I'm crawling around doing stuff, that's what it is. Hopefully nothing major. All right, engine's in place. The hard part's done, right? Well, somehow I still managed to find a lot of things to struggle with between getting the engine sat in place and where I'm at now, which, sneak peek, most of it's in there. But this video is getting too long. Maybe I'm trying to show too much detail, but some guys say they want to see the work and the detail and the struggle. I don't know if I should skip through this stuff and just show littler pieces of it. Let me know what you guys like, but I'm trying to keep these a little shorter. So I didn't plan on doing this. We're going to end this video here. You'll have to come back for part 2 to see how we got from setting the engine in to having most of the goodies in place. Spoiler alert, it even makes noise. See you next time.